I'm going to walk you through how I made a fake movie theater. And it's not just a movie theater, it is actually a movie theater that only shows movies with closed captions. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So started off in Envato with stock photos just to get a good idea of like, colors I might want to use, textures, like, just a general idea of what I want to go for because I know I wanted like the movie to have like, an arcade. Of course, there's going to be concessions and then the different types of concessions and everything. And I know I liked the old timey bulbs that show like that they're displayed like right underneath the entrance of movie theaters, and I thought that was so cool. Like we don't have that barely anymore, and it looks so modern now. But I wanted that included in the design, so I looked for stock photos that like reflected that. And then you'll also see, I know some of these don't make sense, but I'm thinking of like grand opening, if that makes sense, of this movie theater. So I looked for ribbon, scissors, foil, confetti, and then like, the different concessions that might be there, the different packaging and, plates and whatnot that might be with those concessions. Of course, there's going to be arcade games, balloons, people tend to go to the movies at nighttime, so I got like, a nighttime background, just an idea of the color and font that I might want to use. So there's an awesome stock photo for that, for those references. And then just some serene greens that I was thinking of going with at the beginning. And then I also wanted to keep this like, very human and very like like you want to take your friends to this place. So I added a group photo there, and you might notice some group photos throughout this, or they might be like with one or two people. But yeah, so that's the all of these are the untouched Envato stock photos. And then moving on to the AI generated photos from Envato. So I asked Envato to create a mood board for me based on all of the colors in some of the stock photos that you see here. And here's what it created for me. Right off the bat, you can totally tell it's AI. And I'll tell you why. In graphic design, you will never see more than one logo variation as one whole logo. Like right here, you see there's the word mark and then there's the symbol all together in one logo. So that's a bit like that's a big no-no. Um, and then like while we have different logo variations, it has the just by itself, and that kind of makes no sense. I did like the color palette, and then like the patterns, textures that it was showing, things of that nature, but it just wasn't exactly hitting the mark, and you can tell it's a bit AI. It's giving you a good general idea and a plethora of options, but it's not cohesive and it's not quite hitting the mark. And then in terms of brand in use for like, the brand images, um, again, there's the symbol and the word mark together all on one photo, and it's a bit weird. And then we also have the very perfect popcorn in the popcorn bowl, which you can definitely tell that's AI. But this is like, this was the starting point. This was like my core. This is my foundation. And then I also asked it to make like, generate a theater house. And I wanted it to be relatively on the smaller side. So 3,200 square feet. This would probably have like maybe 3 or 4 auditoriums. It's not huge. I just wanted it to be like small enough to like walk downtown and then like maybe, oh, this looks cool. Well, not downtown, but like on a cool strip or something. And you can just walk in with your friends and it's a busy little spot and you walk right back out. Um, but yeah, so this is the starting point for the mood board and all of the materials were there. So the way that I humanized this, I liked what they did with the texture. So I took the texture and then revised the logo. I kept the core of the logo, as you can see. Kept the font and everything. I liked the established and everything in there, so I put all of that into one logo, added some texture, and made that a bit more vibrant and kind of reflecting or mimicking like velvet, how carpets are in movie theaters. So I thought that might be a cool element to add. Like that's just not something AI seemed to get here. But that was one way that I humanized it. Another way is to make sure that the logo variations make sense. So we have a symbol, we have one that could be used for an Instagram profile, and then we have this one that could be used for a banner or the logo for the website. Same thing here, primary logo, and then also same thing here. So we have just a few different options. And then I also separated the color palette and put it into, you know, one stack on one line of its own so you can clearly see each one. And then comes the typography and then the patterns and textures. So I kept those elements and just separated them and made them a little bit more, cohesive and a little bit more digestible. And then I used the stock photos that Envato gave me for any, like a little mood board, if you will, instead of putting mock-ups at the bottom of it. But yes, this is the revised mood board using all of the elements that Envato gave me. All almost like quite literally everything is here. The only difference is I added texture to the logo and then I removed the the symbol from the whole primary logo there. And then comes the social media marketing. So this is what I really want to hone in on. And the reason why is because I want you to fully see exactly the direction I went in. So if you'll notice at the bottom here, we have popcorn, we have the green and cream textured pattern with the stripes. And then we also have over in the stock photos, see all of these different foods and concessions, and then the packaging. So I just wanted you to get a good idea of those. But look how perfect it is. Look how cinematic it looks. It looks very polished, very clean, very crisp. I wanted to steer away from that. So hopping back to the social media marketing, what I primarily focused on is all of the elements given to me by Envato through the branding it provided, and then reframing it and recapturing it, if you will, from a human lens. So whenever, just for example, if you were to go on TikTok or Instagram and you look up going to the movies with my friends, you're not going to see a bunch of polished, perfect pictures. No, you're going to see people taking pictures of their drink, taking pictures of their food, taking them at different angles, and it's going to be in different qualities. Because everyone has a different phone, different level of quality. Um, but yeah, so here we notice the branding, and then it's sprinkled throughout there. You got the symbol pattern here for the burrito, and then the popcorn bowl. See how it's not every piece of popcorn isn't perfectly shaped. We got different shades, different variations in sizes, and all of this is using everything that it provided over here for the branding. And then all of the stock photos that you meant, like that I mentioned earlier that you saw, they're here. And then they're re-angled so it looks like it's taken from a human perspective. That way it makes it a little bit more human. You can connect with this. This person will look at this on social media and be like, oh my gosh, this looks really good. Like I want to try this. And I feel like the whole purpose behind this, that I did this, was because I wanted to make it immersive. Some people can't quite visualize themselves in certain places if they see a polished picture and it doesn't look real enough. It doesn't look raw enough. It doesn't look like it's in the moment, like living in the moment. So that's the lens that I tried to capture when generating these. But yes, so I used the stock photos and the branding to come up with these, as you can see. Here we got the hockey table, the friends. Sorry. Then we have like, the friends and everything. There's the hockey table. There's the burger that you see, hot dog, mozzarella sticks, tacos. My gosh, I'm making myself hungry. Anyways, um, but yes, this is the overall lens that I operated with when recapturing these because I wanted to make it look like it's from different angles. Because, like, whenever you're taking pictures and you're out, you're not thinking of, oh, let me make sure this angle is perfect. You get amateur angles because you're an amateur, you're not a professional. So you take pictures at different angles and like different, like, to try and make it look a little razzle dazzle, if you will. But, like, that's the main thing that I wanted to go for with these photos, using the branding and the stock photos that Envato gave me. And then same thing here, instead of having this, oops, instead of having this perfect polish over the top rendered AI generated building, this is what I decided to go with. And this is how you humanize it. You put it at a different angle. You blur it out a bit. What I also did to blur it out was use this like Polaroid kind of effect. I saw it on Snapchat and I was like, ooh, that's kind of cool. Because I usually take my own photos like that. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So I've been taking my own photos like with that Polaroid filter. And I was like, ooh, wait a minute, that would make this kind of human. What if I blurred out or did a Polaroid effect with, like, some of these? And like, that's the direction that I decided to go in. And then same thing here. This is actually me and my mom. We went to a musical. And the funny thing here is, this is a real photo of us two, just the bodies. Like, full body, that's us, absolutely. But we actually went to a musical, and this was us looking into a mirror because the musical we went had a significance about a mirror in it. I don't know if I can mention it for copyright reasons, obviously. But I decided to make this a grand opening moment. So, of course, earlier you saw the balloons and then the slant angle of the building, and you also saw the ribbon and then the giant pair of scissors in the stock photos. See, and then this is what I was using for reference. There's the arch for the balloons, the foil confetti on the ground that you see, and then there's the reference for the ribbon cutting, and then I do believe the scissors. There we go. See, there's the scissors, foil. But yeah, this was like my core foundation. This was my bread, butter, sauce, and meat. Because without Envato, I never would have gotten this far. Like, oh my goodness. But yeah, this gives you a good idea of what it would look like on social media. See, this is a far cry. Like all the different slants, the different angles, like making the saturation and the quality just a bit different and the texture a bit different to make it more human and raw. See, that is a far cry from these four that, like, that was provided. So moving on, so this was the branding and photos that I used Envato for. The second portion that I used Envato for was going to be the UI branding. And of course, I used the mood board that it provided to me. Of course, it's revised because I simply rearranged some things and that's all. And then I fixed the logo. But yep, all of this is here for reference for the UI branding. And this is actually a Figma template. It's a template available to use in Envato. Mind you, I have not touched UI in 7 years. And even before that, I did not do it professionally. I'm still very, not a novice per se, but 7 years out of Figma. Oh my goodness. So this was relatively very easy to use. So beginner to intermediate, I could totally see someone having the time of their lives with this. But I was able to come up with the colors, typography, and elements and components and whatnot for this. So I also used the Envato UI Figma template to come up with like a ticket booking app for this movie theater. And it was relatively easy. And the way that I made it a bit more human here, I'll give you just a reference of what it looked like before. Here we have the before. So as you can see, it's got some cool tones. It looks like your average movie theater app. It's a bit generic, especially when you get to like the splash page and everything. It's just got the simple logo and it's just black and purple. Maybe you get some white in there, etc. But this is what it looked like before. And then after is where I decided to humanize it. So I used all of the branding that was provided to me from Envato. I used the logo, of course, added that texture so it's a bit different. It gives that edge that AI couldn't quite captivate. And then we also have those images with the branding on there. And then, but yeah, like it was so, like when I say it was super fun to do this, you like, Envato has so many resources that I was really able to get my hands on. So this Figma template was definitely awesome to use. Um, but yeah, so this is how I pretty much humanized it. I used the branding that I settled on earlier on in the video. Here, there you go, you can see it. But yes, I used the branding that Envato provided to me to create this when it started off like this. It was really cool toned, really simple, really short, sweet, and to the point. And it just doesn't look like, captivating. It doesn't look unique. It doesn't look human. So this is exactly what I tried to communicate in this one, this design for the app. So Envato altogether helped me come up with the branding, helped me come up with everything having to do with, like, logos, logo variations, color palettes, mood boards, typography, patterns and textures. It helped me come up with, like, what the building would look like, what some of the, like, the merchandise would look like. It helped me, my goodness, Envato helped me with practically everything. My gosh. And then it also helped me with coming up for the ticket booking app, for the movie theater. So, yep, and it's using the branding that it provided for me. So I practically did this in no time at all. I've, like, on average, this work would probably take like weeks, if that, like days or weeks. I did this in a day and a half using Envato. It cuts so much time, but yeah, this just gives you a good idea of how I used Envato, and then, like, everything that went into my creative process. But yeah, that gives you the starting point and the finishing point of where I came to be using everything that Envato gave me. Like I mentioned, I started from absolute scratch. I had no idea what I was going to do for an idea. Um, but I was thinking, what if, like, I like movies. What if, and I watch them with subtitles all the time. What if we had a movie theater with just subtitles? And then I decided, well, let's create the branding for that. Let's create like the building for that. Let's create what the ticket booking app would look like for that. And in came Envato, and it created the entire thing in practically less than 2 days, because, like, I had work today. I had work today, so I only had a few hours. So Envato came in major clutch. But yeah, this gives you a good idea of my creative process, where I started, which was from complete scratch. I didn't have a logo. The only thing that I had for an idea was the name, possibly, and that's because it would be like a movie theater that only shows movies with closed captions. So the only thing I started off with was the name. It gave me practically literally everything else. And then I just did my best to humanize it by slanting certain pictures, adding textures, removing anything elemental or functional wise that doesn't make sense, like I mentioned, like, the symbol and everything. Um, but yeah, like this is Envato is awesome. And I want to take this time to thank you guys for watching my video. I hope you have a great rest of your morning, day, and or night, depending on whatever time you're watching this. And yeah, have a great one.